Hello and welcome to Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. So I've been doing some math and figured out that we only have like 22 days left of school before summer break. Look at me calling it spring break. Before summer break. So I need to kick it into high gear if I'm going to want to finish this story for you. So we have about like 14 chapters left and I've been breaking them up and doing like 2 a day. So that math does not add up for us to finish. So I'm going to need to read a little bit more than I normally do. So if you are just joining us for the first time, this is your first Harry Potter video, I would suggest rewinding, going back to the first chapter because you will be very confused if you're not, because I'm just starting right in the middle of chapter 3 with the letters from nowhere. So if that's you, goodbye, go back, start at the first chapter. If you've been with us, hello, welcome. You get to stay and listen to this great chapter. So we are on chapter 3, page 42, and if you remember, Mr. Dursley just took all of them out of the house because all these letters kept coming in for Harry, and he's tired of it, so they leave. So we're in the middle of that, of him in the car, Dudley getting mad because he's hungry, of course. So that is where we picked up. So we are on the middle of this page. So we are right here. Here we go. Enjoy. Uncle Vernon stopped at last outside a gloomy-looking hotel on the outskirts of a big city. Dudley and Harry shared a room with twin beds and damp, musty sheets. Dudley snored, but Harry stayed awake, sitting in the windowsill, staring at the lights of passing cars and wondering. They ate stale cornflakes and cold tinned tomatoes on toast for breakfast the next day. They had just finished when the owner of the hotel came over to their table. "'Excuse me, but is one of you Mr. H. Potter? Only I got about 100 of these at the front desk." She held up a letter so they could read the green ink address. Mr. H. Potter, room 17, Railview Hotel, Cokeworth. Harry made a grab for the letter, but Uncle Vernon knocked his hand out of the way. The woman stared. "I'll take them," said Uncle Vernon, standing up quickly and following her from the dining room. "Wouldn't it be better if we just go home, dear?" Aunt Petunia suggested timidly hours later, but Uncle Vernon didn't seem to hear her. Exactly what he was looking for, none of them knew. He drove them into the middle of the forest, got out, looked around, shook his head, got back in the car, and off they went again. The same thing happened in the middle of the plowed field, halfway across a suspension bridge, and at the top of the multi-level parking garage. "Daddy's gone mad, hasn't he?" Dudley asked Aunt Petunia dully later that afternoon. Uncle Vernon had parked at the coast, locked them all inside the car, and disappeared. It started to rain. Great drops beat on the roof of the car. Dudley sniffled. "It's Monday," he told his mother. "The Great Hobrinto's on tonight. I want to stay somewhere with a television." Monday. This reminded Harry of something. If it was Monday, and you could usually count on Dudley to know the days of the week because of television, then tomorrow, Tuesday, was Harry's 11th birthday. Of course, his birthdays were never exactly fun. Last year, the Dursleys had given him a coat hanger and a pair of Uncle Vernon's old socks. Still, you weren't 11 every day. Uncle Vernon was back and he was smiling. He was also carrying a long, thin package and didn't answer Aunt Petunia when she asked what he'd brought. "Found the perfect place," he said. "Come on, everyone." It was very cold outside the car. Uncle Vernon was pointing at what looked like a large rock way out at sea. Perched on the top of the rock was the most miserable little shack you could imagine. One thing was for certain, there was no television there. "Storm forecast for tonight," said Uncle Vernon gleefully, clapping his hands together, "and this gentleman's kindly agreed to lend us his boat." A toothless old man came ambling up to them, pointing with a rather wicked grin at an old rowboat bobbing in the iron-gray water below them. "I've already got us some rations," said Uncle Vernon, "so all aboard." It was freezing in the boat. Icy sea spray and rain crept down their necks and a chilly wind whipped their faces. After what seemed like hours, they reached the rock, where Uncle Vernon, slipping and sliding, led the way to the broken-down house. The inside was horrible. It smelled strongly of seaweed. The wind whistled through the gaps in the wooden walls, and the fireplace was damp and empty. There were only 2 rooms. Uncle Vernon's rations turned out to be a bag of chips, each and 4 bananas. He tried to start a fire, but the empty chip bags just smoked up and swiveled up. "Could you do something with some of those letters now?" he said cheerfully. He was in a very good mood. Obviously, he thought nobody stood a chance of reaching them here in a storm to deliver mail. Harry privately agreed, though the thought didn't cheer him up at all. At nightfall, the promised storm blew up around them. Spray from the high waves splattered the walls of the hut, and the fierce wind rattled the filthy windows. Aunt Petunia found a few moldy blankets in the second room and made up a bed for Dudley on the moth-eaten sofa. She and Uncle Vernon went off to the lumpy bed next door, and Harry was left to find the softest bit of floor he could and to curl up under the thinnest, most ragged blanket. The storm raged more and more ferociously as the night went on. Harry couldn't sleep. He shivered and turned over, trying to get comfortable, his stomach rumbling with hunger. Dudley's snores were drowned by the low rolls of thunder and started near midnight. The lighted dial of Dudley's watch, which was dangling over the edge of the sofa on his fat wrist, told Harry he'd be 11 in 10 minutes' time. He lay and watched his birthday tick nearer, wondering if the Dursleys would remember at all, wondering where the letter writer was now. 5 minutes to go. Harry heard something creak outside. He hoped the roof wasn't going to fall in, although he might be warmer if it did. 4 minutes to go. Maybe the house in Privet Drive would be so full of letters when they got back, he'd be able to steal one somehow. 3 minutes to go. Was that the sea slapping hard on the rock like that? And 2 minutes to go. What was that funny crunching noise? Was the rock crumbling to the sea? 1 minute to go and he'd be 11. 30 seconds. 20. 10. 9. Maybe he'd wake Dudley up just to annoy him. 3. 2. 1. Boom! The whole house shivered, and Harry sat bolt upright, staring at the door. Someone was outside, knocking to come in. And that is where we will stop. So someone is outside the shack, knocking right when Harry turns 11. All right, so you'll have to check in. Well, tomorrow is the day that we have the teacher meeting. So, actually, I will do a Harry Potter reading tomorrow because we need to finish it. So if you are interested and you want to listen tomorrow, I will post a Harry Potter reading tomorrow. But there will be no math tomorrow and no who is. So, Harry Potter will be tomorrow and a morning message tomorrow. And then you need to read the next chapter of The Mouse and the Motorcycle. But that's where we're leaving off. Chapter 4 tomorrow.